Well, hi, everybody. The year is still young. Harry, Richard, and I want to help arm you with all the tools we have in the toolbox to set yourself up for a financially successful 2025. So, success with money is so much easier to attain if you start out by being organized. I know it sounds like eat your peas and carrots, but organization means you've got half the battle won. Marie Kondo, you know who Marie Kondo is, the queen of organization. She says, truly life begins when you put your house in order. And look at her. She's got her own TV series just about how to clean out the clutter. All right, so now back to your money and think about how much of your financial stress comes as a direct result of really not knowing where things are, where you can put your hands on them, what's important, where things should be, or even how to start cleaning up the clutter. So the three of us are going to each give you our very best house cleaning tips to get organized in this new year. So we're going to focus on starting by knowing how to keep track of all those important financial documents, which ones are important. Terry's uncovered a new tool we're going to hear about to help you organize your life. And so why don't we just kind of jump in and start off with Terry explaining, because I think that's a good starting point.
Okay.
Where are the documents?
I wrote, there's a column up at terrysavage.com about this. And I wrote that column before the fires that devastated California, Los Angeles, where, it's unthinkable where everything was lost. I wish everybody there had this new product. Now, you've all heard of Quicken. It was when they started online bill pay, and they put everything in categories. Quicken developed something called Simplify, which is a mobile app which tracks all your spending and your categories and your when your bills are coming due and budgeting. Quicken Simplify is just a wonderful program, but that is not what I'm talking about here. Quicken has just in the last 2 months come out with a brand new product. It's called Life Hub. You get it at quicken.com.
By the way, Terry's not getting paid. We don't get paid.
Oh, no. I think this is the coolest thing ever. Okay. Life Hub costs you, the price is $3.99 a month, but they've got a 50% off sale. So it's $1.99 a month. And you can do, in fact, I'm in the process of doing this right now. If you're like me, you know where everything is. You maybe have a drawer or a file cabinet. Think not only about where you need to stuff, but what if there was an accident or a plane crash or God forbid, something like that? Would your adult daughter or son know where everything is? Oh, yes, the top left-hand drawer, except that stuff is there. I've told them that. And the password, like I have a password protector on my computer for all my other passwords, for all my accounts, but there's a master password. Would they know where that is? I have stickers. This is better. This is in the cloud. You categorize and you scan. You're going to send up your revocable living trust, your healthcare power of attorney. You're going to give each person that needs it, your lawyer, your son, your daughter, maybe even the handyman. There's a section for my country house. How do you get in and how do you turn off the alarm and what should the heat be set at and so forth. So it's password protected, but categories. I'm reading all the things. First of all, you put your contact list right out of your Google or whatever.
Your trusted contact.
This all goes up to the cloud. Second of all, institutions. You can list your broker, the phone number, the account numbers, everything, your insurance agent, your lawyer, your physicians. You will scan. I'm in the middle of doing this. There's a section called personal identification. Scan your driver's license. You have a scanner on your printer. I'm not a techie. This is not so hard to do.
You just do it on your phone.
Yeah. Exactly. Or you scan on your phone, right? Or your passport. All of that information goes up securely scanned. Birth certificates for your kids. In other words, it's not in the box in the house that burned down, God forbid. It's up in the cloud. Now, yes, you're going to still keep the paper stuff. I mean, I would. I'm just crazy that way. But I know it's all securely up in the cloud. There's a password a section where you don't have to put in your password for your movie club and your department store and Amazon and all that. But you should be using, we've talked about this, a password system like Dashlane or something like that. But there's a master password. You put that in there. So the list goes on. There's a section for your dogs. You're going to put the rabies certificate in and the microchip number. You had your dog microchipped, but would you go find it if your dog was lost? All of that stuff. This is the most simple, organized. It's going to take me some discipline to put it together. I'm talking about Quicken Life Hub. And you go to quicken.com and there on the main page, scroll down and it'll talk about this new product, Life Hub, $1.99 a month. I would tell you the hardest part of it is the discipline to, okay, I'm going to get all this stuff up there.
Yeah.
It's in the cloud. It's secure. It's not only password protected to you, but to your adult child or to your lawyer gets a section. All of those things are there. And then, then you can file the boxes away. Your tax returns, there's a whole section for that, but I've left out a lot.
It's great to know about this because it must be brand new. I haven't heard of
it.
it.
It's brand new. It came out in November.
Yeah.
They just contacted me right in November, knowing I'm a big Quicken.
They want you to review it. Yeah.
And to review it. And I waited till the first of the year to just write about it. And the task is you have to do it. But boy, this is very cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Richard, have you heard of it?
I just heard of it recently. I looked into it. It looks like it's really useful, and I will be checking it out. Before I get to my tip, which relates to Terry's, I will throw out a couple of numbers that I think really relate to this. One is that 75% of people say that their essential information is not well organized. So if you're one of those people, you're in good company. Only 30% of people say they have their documents prepared for emergencies, and that's a big problem because all of us should. And then I saw that 92% of people have experienced problems finding this kind of information when they need to do it. So now, as much as I like what Terry described, and it does sound like it could be very useful, I know there are also some people who say, yeah, well, I'd kind of rather do it myself. And I'm one of those people. Once a year, I put together what I call my love list. And the love list is for my wife to have all the information I want her to have so that if there's some day when I'm not around or I'm not able to tell her things that she needs to know about our financial information, she has it all in one place. And I ask her to do the same thing for me. And we send it to each other electronically so we don't have to worry about having it on a piece of paper. But I'm talking about things like, where are your financial accounts? Which institutions has them? And who are your financial advisors? And what are the passwords to the accounts that each of us might need to get into, credit cards, that sort of thing? Because so many people find that after a loved one passes away and they need to get into these accounts, they either don't know how or they're told they can't get into them because they don't have permission and they don't know the password, that sort of thing. So all I would say is, if you don't want to buy an electronic version and you'd rather do it yourself, old school way, the way I do it, take the time. It will take some time. It's not fun, but it's really important to do. And I'd say once a year is probably often enough. And then share it with your spouse, your partner, your adult kids, whoever it may be, just so somebody else has this and you have theirs as well. I'll stop there.
Yeah, this is so timely, given all of what's been happening with these disasters and the fires and so forth. It's huge. So that's really valuable to help us pull everything together, which is the foundation of being able to get the clarity, get rid of the stress, and be able to move ahead. Can we talk for a second about year-end statements? Because I get a lot of people that in my life that ask me, I know I'm supposed to save my year-end statements, but remind me again of why I should keep my year-end statements from my broker, from my bank, etc. And it's worth hitting on the point that, that you're going to save a lot of time and frustration by storing all the documents in one place. But you've got to think about things like, for example, if you're taking RMDs, if you're over 73 and you want
Required minimum distributions, you mean?
yeah, from your retirement accounts, and probably this audience probably speaks RMD because this is who our audience is. But the key to taking an RMD, right, is accuracy. You want your RMD calculations to be accurate, and they are based on the total value of your retirement accounts, like your IRAs, like your 401ks, as of December 31st of the last year. So those year-end statements are the gold. Okay, that's where they're going to provide the account balances that you're going to use to determine RMD amounts using the IRS Uniform Lifetime Table, which nobody wants to talk about. I certainly don't. But I also want to point out, sometimes your custodian for these accounts makes mistakes. I know you don't think that Fidelity or Vanguard or anybody, Schwab, would ever make a mistake. You're the one that has to find those. So keeping those year-end statements gives you the power to verify the accuracy of the calculations independently to make sure you're right on. And if you have multiple retirement accounts, like most of us do, those year-end statements are going to consolidate the total balances so you can calculate again, and aggregate the correct RMD. So for example, if you've got the multiple RRAs, and the RMD is based on the combined balances for all those accounts, and you have to factor all the different considerations in those year-end statements are going to really save you a lot of time. So you want to know where those are. Those go up into either the cloud, or you're going to keep them in a place that where you can find them and where others can find them as well, like your spouse or something. So those
And
are
also, Pam, I also think those year-end statements can be helpful for people just to figure out how they're doing. What's your net worth? What does everything add up to if you put all those statements together for your financial assets and also your liabilities? So you start the year knowing kind of where I am and maybe what I need to be doing to get into a better place.
right. I've got exactly, because I've got a couple more reasons. So that's reason number one. And it's probably like it's really impactful. But it's also impactful to use your year-end statements to do that tweaking of your portfolio, to look at rebalancing, to look at what I mean by that is asset allocation. How much money do you have and do you want allocated into stock, into the market, into bonds, into cash, into real estate? And so comparing those year-end statements over time helps you figure out where you're overweighted, where you're underweighted. And again, do this portfolio assessment early in the year, January, February, March. You can, do this with your financial advisor if you have one. Otherwise, a lot of people can just do this themselves. But either way, you want to make sure the goal there when you're looking at the investments is you want to make sure that those investments haven't drifted off course from what you really targeted. And so that's what you want to do with the year-end statements for investments. And then another point that's so important is while you're at it, while you're looking, take a realistic look at any debt that you might be dragging into the new year. So you've got statements that are for your brokerage accounts and all of that kind of thing, but you've also got your debts, and you want to just take a look at revisiting. And can I just do what I do at the beginning of the year or toward the beginning of the year is I kind of ask why, why do I have any long-term debts? Why? How are those long-term debts really serving me? If you never look at those, you never look at the monthly payment, you never look because everything's automated, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, which is kind of nice for stress reduction, but not good in terms of getting rid of debt. So my tip there is to prioritize the debts and, either recommit to them or commit to paying them down. And there's a number of strategies that you can use. But what I'm going to suggest I'm just going to share what I do. Honestly, I look at myself like a lender would look at me. And I look through the eyes. Hey, if you were going to borrow money, if I'm going to borrow money, from myself here, how would I look at you? And I want to make sure that my credit score which is so important to every interest rate I'm ever going to pay on anything. I want to make sure that my credit score is strong, and I want to make sure that my debt to income ratio, which is what FICO, one of the biggest things FICO looks at, is going to be, in line. So there's different ratios. I'll put something in the show notes. We won't geek out here on the formula, but I'll give you some basic strategies for looking at what do lenders look at when they look at you? What do you need to look like to have your credit score high? And order your credit report early in the year from annualcreditreport.com. That's where I get it, or Asperian. And they'll you can go directly to the credit bureaus. And I'm not talking about just getting your FICO score. I'm talking about getting the actual report that has the narrative that tells the story of you as a borrower. I want to review that. I want to make sure it's accurate and all of that. And then the last quick tip here, heading back to year-end statements, why? Obviously for tax purposes. And I think that getting your taxes, and since you're doing all of this anyway, I think you can simplify your tax reporting using those year-end statements. And, so that's my tip for 2025. Use those year-end statements to guide you into the year, to see where you are, tweak, make changes to both your investments if needed, and to whittle down debt if you need to.
And Pam, I think it's also after you've done all these things that we've just talked about, that's a great time for you to sit down and talk with your spouse, your partner, whoever you, if you have somebody in your life like that you want to say, okay, well, here's not only where everything is, but here's how we're doing. Here's what we should work on in 2025. Here's where we're doing great. We had a great year in 2024 in the stock market or whatever, but this is what we really need to work on. It could be debt, it could be something else.
And my last thought on this is, there's been a thread through here. We've talked about paper statements, and then some people just don't even bother opening them up, and they think, well, it's all online. Look, there's some stuff, paper stuff, you've got to keep. All the receipts for your house improvements and so forth, because one day you sell it, you're going to need to increase your cost basis. So I'm not against paper, but I think we've had a pretty graphic demonstration that what you can move securely into the cloud, that's there and accessible from your phone or from your kid's phone or your lawyer's computer, makes it so much more secure for you in case of a physical emergency. So this is a new way to look at things for a lot of people. They like everything stacked up in a file folder or a metal box. All those metal boxes that people said they put stuff in, I listened to them on CNN. Everything burned to a crisp and melted down. So get your life in order for the new year, both on land and up in the cloud.
All right. So the three things that I walk away with from this today about getting organized are: gather it, either it's in the cloud, or no matter what, gather it, look at it, evaluate it going into the new year, and then store it someplace where as Richard points out, it's accessible to our loved ones. Richard, I hope I'm on your list.
You're always on my list.
Everything, Pam.
Listen, I'm going to end on a quote to get very zen on this. You cannot reach for anything new if your hands are still full of yesterday's clutter. Quote from Louise Smith. We'll have our tips in our show notes, and we'll see you next time on Friends Talk Money.
Bye, everybody.
Friends Talk Money is funded in part by a grant from the Investor Protection Trust. The IPT is a nonprofit organization devoted to investor education. Since 1993, the IPT has worked with the states to provide the independent, objective investor education needed by all Americans to make informed investment decisions. Visit investorprotection.org. We also receive support from the North American Securities Administrators Association, known as NASA. It's the oldest international investor protection organization. NASA's members include state and provincial securities regulators from the U.S., Canada, and Mexico who serve on the front lines of investor protection. Recognizing that education and awareness are powerful tools in the fight against investment fraud, NASA is pleased to sponsor Friends Talk Money. Here are 3 important tips to help you protect your money from fraud. With investing, there are always risks, so be cautious of anybody telling you that a certain investment is guaranteed. You should also proceed with caution if somebody is promising very large investment returns. This is a common red flag for investment fraud. Last and most importantly, be sure you're working with a licensed or registered financial professional. You can check your advisor and make sure they're licensed by visiting brokercheck.finra.org. NASA is your partner in keeping you safe and helping you avoid investment frauds. Visit nasa.org and click on the Investor Education tab to learn more.